All right, so here we are. Had a strange day. It's July 1st. Is that right? Just walking around outside, picking up some... Now, they call it Italian ice around here, and I guess the company is called Rita's Italian Ice. But my mom couldn't be convinced in any way, shape, or form to refer to it as Italian ice. She's from Philadelphia, and she will always call it water ice, which is an insane thing to say. And she just looks at me sometimes and goes, water ice. And I don't... You can have water in a glass with ice. For sure. It's not what Philadelphians are going to want. They're going to keep saying water ice and act like the other 49 states and 500 cities of Pennsylvania should obey. They're extremely specific. Anyway, some guy slapped me on my stomach. Immediate reaction, I just slapped him in the face. And he looked at me betrayed, like somehow that was a fault of mine. So, listen, I'm never one to tell people to start things with violence, but here's some advice for all ages. Don't let people think they can get away with putting their hands on you and not suffer consequences. Now, I'm very confident in my ability to defend myself from a random bro on the street. If you gotta get law enforcement involved, if you gotta get bear spray or a taser involved, you do that. You do what you gotta. Don't let people think they can get away with putting hands on you. Any gender, any age, absolutely not. Under no circumstances. In other words, no. This bird keeps getting poisoned. Bird, stop getting poisoned. Unfortunate. My objective today is to try to record 3 separate episodes. We'll see if I can actually get that done. It's hot here, guys. July 1st in Delaware. We're pushing 90 today. And supposedly for the rest of the week, it's going to be a bazillion degrees. Up to 106 to 110. Sheer insanity. I have been tilting a bit into Xenonauts too, I will say that. Do like me some Xenonauts. Got a few hours in. I've come to the realization that my current save file's cooked. I didn't even notice that I could hire more scientists to do research faster. And I was like, oh, it's so strange that I'm being sidelined. Like, it feels like I'm behind the curve on research. I'm ahead of the curve on everything else. I'm able to meet all the threats. It used to be that I could take out any enemy in like one or 2 rifle shots, and now I need like 6 or 7 dudes all pouring fire onto the target in order to destroy them. So I'm just behind on research. Like, whatever tool I need to be ahead, I don't have. And so I was like, I gotta investigate this. How am I so far behind? And then I noticed that, yeah, you could build an additional laboratory. That would help. That would help a little bit. Not that much, but it would help. But also, it would really help if you kind of like fully kitted yourself out and availed yourself of the maximum scientist bias. So that was a bad call on me. I probably could have easily gotten away with building less hangars and less radars and built more labs, because it isn't just the field of battle that I was having problems in Xenonauts 2. I was just at this point where I couldn't handle aerial combat at all. I only had 1 interceptor, and for the longest time that was so easy. I was easily winning fights. I was overwhelming the enemy. Launching a missile pack and then getting in there with either regular guns, then mag rifled guns, and then finally laser guns. And then I reached this point where like laser rifle on your MiG-25 followed up with 2 missiles wasn't even enough to like dent the armor of medium alien craft, and I'm like, dang, man. Like, they're just hunting me down up here in the sky. Now, I could outmaneuver them for a long while. If it was one-on-one, the MiG-25s are real nice. You can speed into an enemy's gun blind spot, then slow down into almost stall speed, and then just rotate in place and kind of rotate with your opponent. And it's nice. But if there's more than one opponent, you can't do that, because the second guy will just... The AI is not dumb. They will absolutely cook you if you try to pull that stuff. What can I say? Here's what I can say. I've got some songs for you, all right? I started picking songs based on Stormlight Archive characters, and then I briefly dipped into Kelsier, because as Thydakar, he does show up in Stormlight Archives, books 1 and 5. Pretty briefly. I think he maybe also gets mentioned in 4. But I don't have a song idea for him as Thydakar, because his Thydakar persona is so different. He's changed in the hundreds of years. So anyway, here's my song ideas, all right? Kaladin is Misery by Maroon 5. All right, that's definitely his song. Adeline Colin is the song Number 1, featuring Hazel Fernandez by Shiro Sagisu. All right, real ones know what I'm talking about. Dylan Devar is I Miss You by Blink 182. Seth Sansan Villano is I Am Like a Bird by Nelly Furtado. I feel like I don't even need to explain this one. But this dude's always flying, and he's always looking to offload responsibility for his actions to anyone around at any single moment. Desperate to have someone else in charge as he just continues to move around the world, avoiding anything. Dalinar is the song I'll Make a Man Out of You from the Mulan soundtrack. I don't actually know if that's the title of that song. I actually just used to call it the Man song from Mulan, but I believe that it is called I'll Make a Man Out of You. But I'm not certain. However, I find it very difficult to believe that having listed the name of the song, or what I believe the name of the song is, that you, the audience, would not know what I'm talking about. I think you're absolutely going to be on the level on that one. Hoid, in his form as Wit in Stormlight Archives, is the song I'm Gonna Be. And you might be like, what the hell is I'm Gonna Be by the Proclaimers? But you probably would know if I started singing 500 Miles, because, you know, it's like, it doesn't just match him because he's a dude who's always moving around and going where he's needed, but also because if you've watched How I Met Your Mother, you know that this song rotates through amazing height, and then it sucks, and then it circles back around and it's amazingly hype, and that really is just Hoid in general. Jasna Colon is a hard one, all right? I think that Jasna Colon is Moonlight Sonata, which is technically called the Piano Sonata number 14 by Beethoven. But I don't know anyone that hasn't ever called it the Moonlight Sonata. And it should be noted that there is a way of Trinity deciding characters that's called Misery x CPR x Reese's Puff. And in that Trinity, Culloden is still Misery by Maroon 5. That doesn't change, and probably never will. Adeline is CPR by Cupcake, and Shalon is the Reese's Puff rap. Which, you know, Reese's Puffs. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, just look up Misery x CPR x Reese's Puffs. Anyway, there is a theory that you can put any 3 characters into one of those categories. I've done it before with me and some of my cast members. Somehow I end up either being Misery or Reese's Puffs. I think that there's never a chance that I'm ever going to end up being CPR. That's just not who I am, but you can rotate between the other 2. for me. Some people are all three, really. But in a friend group situation, you usually fall into one of those three categories for the group, you know. Anyway, so Arrow 1 Kelsier is definitely Friend Like Me from the Aladdin soundtrack. The original one, not the one with Will Smith. For sure, Kelsier is, his entire thing is getting everyone around him what they think they want. That's his thing, man. And you've never had a friend like him. Don't believe me? Then you haven't read the book, is all I have to say. Kelsier is the ultimate enabler. He gets people stuff that they say that they want and then also don't actually want. And sometimes he gets people things that they didn't say they wanted, but actually needed. Because you've never had a friend like him. Also, he's like a wish granter to some extent. Kind of like a divine being. A celestial being. No, wait, that's Gundam. You know, speaking of Gundam, I'm planning my high-level prep for Battletech The Second Chance. And I'm really kind of rotating around Gundam Wing and Trey's Kushernada. He is such a great villain. I'm not even sure he can technically... I don't know that the protagonists are heroes, but he is absolutely a villain. He did plan a sort of autocratic fascist takeover of the entire world with his little goon squad. And by the way, I don't want to say I'm taking back the word goon. I mean, goon has meant a very specific thing for like hundreds of years. Just a bunch of little Gen Zs running around trying to make it kind of a lewd word. No. He's got a gang, a squad. He's got a staff. And his staff are also quite villainous as well. They use that one general guy, and then they push him out of plane. And even when they're pushing him out... Okay, so just to be clear, he doesn't have like a jetpack or like a parachute or anything. He's gonna die from falling out the plane. And Trey's number one literally just shoots him in the head while he's falling. Now, this is basically impossible to do in real life, right? Like when you push someone out of a plane, we've all seen literally any para-jump ever. You fall behind the plane really quickly, but in anime, you fall straight down and you move with the plane. And then she shoots him in the head while he's falling. Which I honestly, it feels like a dumb idea. If someone finds the body, you could just argue he committed suicide or he accidentally stumbled out the plane or something. You could do some sort of cover-up. It wouldn't be that difficult. But if you shoot him in the head, it's definitely clear that he was murdered. And since that general was the one that basically like turned over the power of the state to them, it's just strange. Now I get it, they didn't really want him in the picture anyway. I'm not saying it's wrong that they killed him or got rid of him. I just think that it's sloppy work to, at the last second, in your hour of triumph, to just stumble at the finish line. I don't think it ever comes back to haunt them. It's been a while since I watched Gundam Wing. I don't think that event ever does come back. It does just, what is her name? Lady something. But I do remember Trey's, like, talks down to her at one point, because she does something, and he's like, ugh, so uncouth. That's not very noble-like. And I was like, oh, damn. Because she's like an ultra-efficient villain. I think the trope that people might use for her is Dragon. She's like his Darth Vader. But she is like ultra-efficiency, Japanese office worker level of cleaning up all of Trace's poop. He does his dirty work and gets his business done. But if she doesn't do it exactly the way she wants it, or it's not even that, if she doesn't do it with autocratic, noble style, he will turn his nose up at her, which I think is so interesting, so interesting. I'm now noticing that Bird is level 46, and that probably by the end of this battle, he's going to be 47, so we got to stop leveling him. Good to know that now before I mess up and over-level him, though. Good to know now. I mean, if I just have no intention of using him in the Blaine fight, we could just over-level him. But there's no reason for me to fight with a hand behind my back. So it's Snorlax time now. It's so funny, because this Pokemon, I keep talking about Belly Drum, and then someone actually did Belly Drum me. And that, I don't know that that's ever happened to me before, uninvited, that someone would just slap my stomach. I have a sneaking suspicion that some of my doctors just like pushing on my stomach sometime. And I've talked to other fat men like me, and they've been like, yeah, I think sometimes my doctors are just like a little bit too into checking out your stomach, their stomach. I don't know. Sound off in the comments if you know what I'm talking about. I guess it's another case of if you know, you know. My man Dunamis doesn't know that JIC means just in case, so I have to say if you know, you know, because if I say IYKYK, he might not get it. Even though he's almost the same age as I am, and he has multiple children, for some reason we didn't get the same texting etiquette. I'm guessing he wasn't part of the AOL Instant Messenger area. He didn't use Pigeon and ICQ. Bulletin boards were a little bit before my time, just in case you're a Gen Xer out there. Wow, level 42. I think the grind sesh might be over this time. So the important thing is that I can't really level Buddy. Oh, I still have to level Dragon as well, right? All right, don't forget about that. He's level 45. Yeah, all right. So we got a 45 plus ish Snorlax, and then we probably also want to level out Dragon, and then the grind sesh will be over. We probably don't need to over level Freezy up to 47. Freezy's just kind of there as the backup as a water type to eat fire attacks, but I expect Gyarados to be able to single-handedly wipe that whole gym. We'll see. It's so strange to me that Dunamis is playing a hacker in Shadowrun, and yet we've had such a different chatting experience. As someone who spends way too much time on the internet and is a streamer, I encounter a lot of the youth culture, but I feel like I'm always several weeks behind. They'll roll out these new memes and these new acronyms, and I'm like, ugh. I don't know if whatever ridiculous thing they're talking about is gonna last. You know what I mean? Like, should I bother looking it up if I'm not certain that I need this in my brain? Like, yeet? I didn't think yeet had chops. I heard yeet, and I was like, what the heck does yeet mean? And when I heard what yeet was, I was like, there's no way this survives. But actually, it did survive. It'll probably outlive me at the rate people are still using it. Not like a lot, but it has entered the common lexicon. I didn't think it could do it. I didn't think it could make it that far. Chop? He's gonna hit me with that fighting technique. Nope, he's gonna die in one hit. Love that. I uninstalled World of Warcraft, by the way. I only had 3 or 4 days left on my subscription. I think that all the other WoW heads just quit the game, and I was really just like the last one hanging in there. Very sad. In a few months, when I turn to Final Fantasy XIV, I'm definitely going to try to get people to go with me, but my expectation is not that I will have any acolytes to go with me. And this is the thing about returning to an in-progress MMO with a high-level character. My macros are all going to be messed up. My rotations are all going to be totally different. Like, multiple expansions have come out since then, right? I'm going to have to look up a leveling guide for how to continue and just, like, how to even play the game at the point that I'm at. But I did this really cool thing, so I don't know if they've changed it, but back in the day, you pick, like, a class. And then that class will then equip a sort of overclass. And the overclasses are a bit more like what one would traditionally associate with Final Fantasy, right? Like, you pick a class that's like, I don't know, let's say fighter or man who punches stuff or something like that. And then your overclass would be warrior, which of course, very MMO-like to have a warrior class, right? I guess the overclass is just called job. But the job levels with your regular class. There's only one class that has 2 jobs. I don't remember what that class is called, but that's the one I picked because you get to level Summoner, which is a DPS class, and I want to say healer, but it might be Fey Spirit Summoner or something like that. So it's the only class that has 2 jobs. One is a healer and one is a DPS. And so you can go through the overworld and do all your regular questing as a DPS. And then when you need to do like dungeons or raids or something for story, like main story quest stuff, you can just swap your job cube over to over to healer. Your equipment is pretty similar. There's like 2 stats that control your healing and your DPS. Like mind, intellect, or something. And all of your equipment for both classes will have both mind and intellect. And again, these might not be correct, or it might have significantly changed. But back in my day, it's just that one would be prioritized over the other. So while you're out in the world, you can gather equipment that has both stats but prioritizes your DPS side. And then when you need to do dungeons, you're still wearing the same equipment. You just are slightly less good at healing. You have a little bit less mana, you do a little bit less. And overall, I found it to be an extremely acceptable experience. And you can gather additional pieces of healing gear just to kind of bolster your set in the process. It does allow you to like store and equip multiple sets of equipment with relative ease. Yeah, it's so different than other MMOs that I've more or less played because you don't make a character for each class. Your character can be any class. You can switch to all of them. You know, you like pick up the new class title or a new job orb to over-equip. So it's also a crafting work because each craft is its own class. And you don't really level it by going out and defeating people, more or less. You level it by crafting. I think fishing, maybe you fight stuff while fishing, but that might be my memories of Final Fantasy XI stepping in there. where you could pull enemies up while fishing. And so the way people fished was that they would get on the ferry boats, because the ferry boats would always have other players on board, and then they'd fish there, and then when they fished up an enemy, everyone on the ferry, bored of the like 5-minute ferry timer, would absolutely blast. That was such an MMO that teleporting was a job thing and required you to pay a tip to people, kind of like Earth and Beyond. And so people might not be able to find a teleporter at certain times of day in a city. And so a lot of people would take ferries to places. And also the ferries would go to places you couldn't normally teleport to. And so you'd end up in this situation where, despite the fact that you could teleport, a lot of people simply didn't teleport. Very strange, very, very strange. It was an MMO that definitely prioritized using up as much of your free time as possible. Final Fantasy XI absolutely did not respect your time. It was built to be a massive time sink. And I think it was kind of like a prototype for all of the like super grindy Asian MMO styles. Like Korean MMOs, just Korean games in general, are kind of known to be like extremely grindy now, and I think that Final Fantasy XI may have been the prototype, one of the steps along that road. The real thing that set you back in 11 was whenever you died, you lost experience and you could de-level in the process, which made PvP an insane prospect as well. But you could be out doing raid bosses or something. You could be pushing top content and you could be de-leveling yourself. And then not qualify for that content anymore. Just strange game design that didn't respect your time. I think that's what I liked about the current generation of World of Warcraft, was that compared to the sort of classic experience that I'm used to, it respected your time a lot more. It didn't take very long to get anywhere in the world and just get out there and start doing stuff, especially with like fast flying mounts. Maybe they've just learned that people don't want to mess around with that dog poo-poo anymore. I don't know. In other words, Reese's Puffs, Reese's Puffs. Eat 'em up, beat 'em up, beat 'em up, beat 'em up. I mean, I feel like a lot of what I do, especially in streaming, is about not wasting people's time, right? Like, it's one of my principles in real life. That can be difficult to follow. Sometimes requires a non-insignificant sacrifice of my own time to follow. But in general, you should not make your problems other people's problems. This is like if you gotta make a left turn and you're in the right-hand lane, 3 lanes over, don't just dart across 4 lanes of traffic, right? You've messed up, you're not ready, take the L, get off at the next exit, take a right, come back around. Less than 5 minutes worth of time. Don't risk lives, don't risk accidents, don't risk stress. Just don't do it, man. Don't do it. Nowadays, we don't put YouTube ads on anything. I try not to monetize stuff as much as possible. I know that I probably should. I'm not getting my bag, so to speak. But like, who's got money anymore? You know what I mean? Like, and everything feels like I should be saying like subscribe or like or whatever. But as a viewer myself, I feel like that just kind of annoys me when people say it. I never hear it and go, oh yeah, I should subscribe to that person. It's like when people tell me in a cooking video, don't forget to salt the tomatoes. I'd never heard that before a few years ago, and then every cooking video all started doing it at once, and now none of them can stop. They'll always remind you that you have to salt your tomatoes. Well, first off, no you don't. Let me be so clear here. You don't have to salt your tomatoes. I think salting tomatoes does make them taste better, but there are plenty of people that'll just bite into a tomato like me. Eat a tomato like an apple sometime. If you haven't done it, you don't know about that juicy, watery experience. Would it be better to dice that tomato up with like an onion and some other pico de gallo-ish ingredients? Maybe. But sometimes you just want to eat a tomato like a savage. You want to eat it like you're an Attack on Titan character. Whether I'm talking about a Titan or whether I'm talking about Sasha eating a potato, I'll leave that up to you. That's right, the potato. It wasn't even half. Clearly not even half. What a demon. Sasha Brown. Attack on Titan. What a genius. It works on so many levels. And it's one of those stories that, like, it was planned out from the beginning. Of course, not every single plot twist was plotted out, but the entire timeline, like general course of events, the themes were all plotted ahead of time, Sandersonianly, such that it all connects together nearly seamlessly without being like, okay, look at any of the Avatar stories, right? Maybe the Aang trilogy doesn't suffer from this as much. It does to some extent, because we did get Ember Island players at one point, which is not bad. But it's requisite. Is his name Prince Lau in Legend of Korra, where they just ran out of money and so they just did like a PNG voice actor cut with clips from previous episodes to do a recap because they just ran out of money at the end? And then they didn't know whether they were going to get an additional series. That one is brutal. I'm a huge fan of Babylon 5. I think it's got one of the tightest stories. It was planned from beginning to end. All of its themes, all of its storylines. They also had to make tough calls and cut things out. The assault on Babylon 5 by the Minbari warrior cast, that whole storyline was cut. And they changed it into the Babylon 4 time travel plot. And they had to do that on the fly. But J. Michael Straczynski also had plans whenever he introduced a new character or a new actor. He also included a thing of like, here's the thing in their backstory that we learn about fairly early on about them, that if I need to write that actor out of the show, this will have come up already, so when they leave, it won't be a surprise. All characters have that thing in their backstory. And some of the characters, it's more obvious than others what that thing in their backstory is. And some of the characters were written out. The actors left the show for various reasons, or the network demanded that they leave, or J. Michael Straczynski maybe hit on one of the actresses and tried to make a relationship out of it, and the woman got really uncomfortable. Listen, a great director and a great storyteller and a great writer does not always equal a great person. We can still appreciate the story. Babylon 5, the 5th season ended up being compressed into the 4th season. So the 4th season is incredibly action-packed, extremely dense as a result. And then after that season was over, the studio was like, actually, we still want a season 5. So all of the story had basically, all the main story had already been told. Straczynski is like, all right, I'm going to write a new season 5. And then he lost the plot at a convention, is what he tells people. He lost the papers. And he had to write a new... So this guy had to go through 3 season 5s, essentially. Was, season 5's not the best. 1 through 4 is excellent. If you haven't watched Babylon 5, I highly suggest it. Season 1 can be a bit rough to get through. 2, 3, 4 is an incredible saga. The bigger beef is that it can be hard to find the Babylon 5 The Gathering first episode, and that episode is like only semi-canonical. There was a lot of stuff in it that was being planned that just didn't make it to the final cutting room floor, but also things that happen in it are referenced later. So it's pretty strange. No thanks, I don't want covet. Thanks though, bro. Thanks though. Stop the coveting. No coveting. Also no diggity. And no doubt. For me, Londo Mollari is one of the greatest characters in fiction. His arc is incredible. It is strange that when Babylon 5 begins, Londo Mollari is the narrator, and when major events happen, Londo is still the narrator. And a lot of people were confused by that. And the thing is, the guy playing Londo Mollari did not read ahead in future scripts. He didn't ever ask for any additional information and was given a huge amount of leeway to just like invent the sort of Mediterranean Italianness of being Centauri. All their mannerisms, other actors that were Centauri would then match his vibe as to what being Centauri meant. So he had a lot of leeway, but he also didn't know where his character's story was going. He was absolutely delighted to watch the rise and fall, the continual rise and falls of Londo Mollari. And he is my introduction to like really complicated long form character storytelling of someone who repeatedly is given options to be a better person, often choosing not to become a better person, but just as often taking the lesson. He's really complicated. And it never seems like it's just a writer being like, he's going to take this option because I need him to. It never feels like it's just like, all right, for the plot. He always has like a dignified reason, with some exceptions. The thing about, there's like a weird thing in like season 3 or 4 where he's just like, all right, kill all the Narn. But the Narn Centauri plot, which sort of is like the background to the whole story, is this conflict being fought between the two of them is the token battle of the actual villain. As the fight goes poorly for the Narn, that is because of the machinations of the true villain of the entire series, who are kind of introduced early. And then they sit quietly and wait by, which shouldn't be a surprise because they are called the Shadows. And that's really their style. That is their style. They are very vampiric, very regent, forced behind the throne, and we literally get to see them do exactly that in a non-metaphorical way to the Centauri. The guy playing the head of the Narn regime, Andrzej, I want to say his last name's Kastowicz, something like that. He gave everything to his performances. It's the episode where he hangs out with the real King Arthur, and they get in sci-fi night fights. That's really cool. He has that he is a warrior who is trying to become a leader of his people. Like, he is a war leader trying to transition into becoming a politician, and then he has to further transition into becoming a resistance leader. And finally, he has to become a sort of messianic, spiritual but not religious leader. He desperately tries to not make it a religion, and his people don't understand that. He wants to keep it a very spiritual, culturally unifying thing, and they keep pulling him into becoming a religious leader. It's incredible. I will say it is very strange seeing the topic of religion come up so many times in a sci-fi show. I wouldn't say it's like a primary thing, but the Minbari religion is kind of, I mean, they have 3 castes and one of them is a religious caste, so it does become a major part of their plot lines. They apparently have a very universalist and sometimes Unitarian look at the world. They have the... Who did the... Is it Plato with the allegory of shadows on the cave wall? That's their entire life philosophy, is that the search for God or a soul or light, you cannot see the thing emitting the light, you can only see the result of it. And trying to find the sources of light and understand them is the key. Wow, that was me trying to explain several seasons of Minbari religion compressed into about 2 sentences, but there you go. It does more or less assemble from the allegory of the shadows on the cave wall, which maybe was Plato, maybe it was Aristotle. Could have been Socrates. There's some Greek somewhere. You know how Greek philosophers are. You can just kind of interchange them at any time. Wah, 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 wah. Alright, this run we're probably going to level out your nasty boy Snorlax. Wow, he got hit for over 50 damage. That's bogus, dude. But it's like when I recommend people watch Record of Grand Crest War, or as it's known in Japan's anime, Grand Crest Senki? That show had an amazing start, and then the middle got kind of and then like it lost me for a while. And right on the episode where I was going to give up, it suddenly got like really hype out of nowhere, and I was like, whoa, the writers wake up? Did they get the second half of the season money in or something? Did they get merch dollars and finally someone remembered how to make a good show? And then the end was like pretty good. That show is wild. Very interesting. So it's about a world where a limited number of people are sort of noble knights / lord, and as you conquer sort of evil demonic witch forces, if you're just a regular guy and you manage to overcome such a challenge, you get a very small magical crest on your hand, right? And then like as you overcome increasing challenges, your crest grows, evolves, and becomes bigger. But also, if someone else pledges their service to you who has a crest, their crest kind of joins into yours, and so the entire world is trying to unify under one person to create the grand crest to sort of seal away all evil forever. But of course, because you must willingly pledge service, right? Everyone, even people who want to do the right thing for the right reasons, still want to be the person who is in charge. So the war is between people who earnestly believe they can do the right thing and do the right job to people who just want power. And some people just want the war to perpetuate forever. Very interesting show. And then you always have Record of Lodoss War, one of my favorite animes. Classic D&D adventure. It's so wild. So what it was is D&D kind of got big in Japan in like the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And these guys would write down what was happening in what was called records or replays. But Japan didn't have a very strong dice industry. If you've ever seen a Japanese casino, it's mostly just D6s. And so if you look at games like Made RPG or other stuff like that, they invented the D66 and the D666 system. where they get around the fact that they don't have D4s, D8s, D12s, 10s, 20s. It's very difficult to play Dungeons and Dragons in that era without a D20, so they started converting to a D66 system. And then they ended up publishing that as an MMO, or not an MMO, as a tabletop RPG. But anyway, it was... Record of Lodos Wars is a bunch of writers and anime, mangaka, all that sort of stuff. Like, these were big names in the industry who were privately playing a game together. Honestly, it's a bit like Critical Role. And so it got really famous, their record or replay. And then they got basically an opportunity to turn it into an anime. And the first anime was pretty good. And then they were like, well, the anime didn't precisely follow what happened in the record. And they were like, great, well, the first anime did so well, we're just going to give you the money to do a second one. And so the second one kind of recovers the first one and its first few episodes and makes it even more hype. And then follows the story as it's continued since the first anime was made, with you know, like the second generation of characters still in the same world. And that was called Record of Lodos Wars Chronicles of the Heroic Knight. And then there's a third one that's just about the bad guy, the villain, Ashnard, and his hot dark elf assassin girlfriend. But it's never really been translated into English or dubbed ever. I think it was dubbed into French or something crazy like that. I've never been able to find copies of it, but it's kind of very different from the other stuff, so. They had this really interesting take on clerics of gods of war, where the dude's like, I'm a cleric of Myri. Myri's god of war. And he's like, I should be siding with the good guys, right? Ashnard shows up, is like, oh yeah? You want to side with the good guys? I'm an honorable fighter. I'm a great warrior. And also, I'm super strong. Finally, last thesis statement. I'm gonna cause a lot of wars. And the god Myri was like, hey man, I don't pick sides. If you want to go with this dude because you're impressed with his fighting style and you think he's a good man, even if he's going against the current heroes, I'm your god, you're my cleric. As long as you're fighting on behalf of battling, I'm gonna let you do whatever you want. And so the god Myri backs Ashnard repeatedly. He just wants battle, man. Ashnard loves battle. Freaking loves it, dude. You could make a YouTube account called Ashnard Wants to Battle. That might not be his name, by the way. I might be misremembering his name as Ashnard. He's a good villain. He's a great villain. Can we hit 47 here? I don't think so. I think we're gonna have to do another go around. And then we gotta level Gyarados. And then we'll probably park right in front of Blaine's house and do an episode changeover. How far into this are we? Because I've been yakking for a while. We're like 48. We'll probably be close to an hour. That feels like an acceptable episode length. I feel kind of bad that yesterday I kind of phoned it in at like 36 minutes, but I had to go play Arkham Horror card game with James, Eternal, and Lawson. I say I have to, but you know, I do like meeting my obligations. It was fun. I don't think I understand the mechanics of it, and they often left me to make the last action. And my character is Agnes Baker. She's a waitress in the 1910s or whatever. But she's the reincarnation of like a witch queen or something, from what I can tell. It's never like outrightly stated. And so she gets strong spells, and anytime she's hurt by the horrors of her mind, she backlashes against enemies nearby. And so that ended up being like my primary mechanic, was just like intentionally getting myself in situations where I saw horrible stuff and then deflecting that onto enemies nearby. It was the primary way I dealt damage. So after the game, I read up that people consider her to be a high-tier character because she's a good combatant, which I thought was a little strange because she's a terrible combatant. She only has 2 dice in combating. But I did end up getting a baseball bat, which increased my ability to combat combatantly. She's a lot better at spells, and I think what it is that one of her spells lets her fight with her spell power rather than with her fighting power, like her physical strength. But I didn't get that card. It was like my last draw was like that card. If I'd gotten it much sooner, she would have been a much better combatant. So I think I need to get something that allows me to search my deck for spells. And the other thing is, I did want to do that. I did just want to search my deck for spells constantly and play them. And I had a mechanic that allowed me to start looking at the top 3 spells of the top 3 cards of my deck and then withdraw any spells. And anytime I played a spell, I got to draw a new card and that sort of stuff. But it was non-optimal play for me to do that. Like, I ended up being that I needed to do other stuff to support the team. And I just felt drawn to playing in this sort of milling way of bringing out new cards and playing spells, because obviously a witch character should be playing spells. That's what I'm best at. And I just ended up having to not do that. And so it's like a deck builder game. I get an opportunity to swap cards out, and I'm just not sure where to go. Like, do I want to hyper focus on wording and spelling, or do I want to like bolster my ability to fight in a non-spell way now, or get some sort of deck searching cards? I'm not sure what's good, and I don't want to bring the whole team down. I made some misplays. I brought out a flashlight because I didn't think it would hurt me in any way. I never used it once. I had to commit a bunch of resources to getting it out, and then when I equipped the baseball bat, I had to get rid of the that thing. I brought out a cat. It cost me stuff, and then I had to discard the cat to bring out an arcane initiate, and the cat never did anything, and it cost me stuff. And then later I ended up being really short on resources, and I was like, this sucks. Like, I've misplayed this quite badly. Resources I could have put towards these various battles have instead been put towards getting these objects that I then immediately threw out. If you haven't been paying attention to the stream, by the way, Gyros is back out front. It's Dragon! Time to just stab Surf on these guys. That same type attack bonus, Surf, as a water type. See if we can overwhelm them with our combat power. Impossible. He survived. Alright, that was a strange choice, but okay. Chocolate rain. Some stay dry and others feel the pain. That guy followed me back when I had a Twitter account. I remember being really excited about it, and then Henley was like, he follows everybody, dude. And I was like, damn, okay. Well, I thought having Tay Zonde follow me was really cool, but actually follows 10 million people, so. But for a brief moment of like 2 or 3 days, I felt like that was really cool. Before someone ruined it for me. I say ruined it, but really, I suppose it's just describing reality to me. Opening my eyes to the truth. Becoming woke to the way of the world. Wow. Surf critical hit. Got him. I see I have a Discord message. But I'm gonna be a good streamer and ignore it until we 47 out Dragon and land up in front of the gym. Oh, maybe we could even fight all the trainers in the gym, but then that would take away from the next episode. I feel like the next episode, you gotta start like building the hype towards the gym battle, because I don't know that I'm gonna be able to set up a situation that like the one that I did with Koga, Sabrina. Well, it wasn't Koga and Sabrina. It was Koga, rival, Giovanni. Alexa, stop. Alexa, stop. Wow. It's still not stopping. Alexa, stop. Incredible. Fighting Gym Dojo and then Sabrina, while also skipping all of her. I should not have skipped her, people. But I was desperate to get it all in one episode as a sort of super episode, and it felt great crushing all those people all at once, just knocking out huge fights. I don't think I'm going to be able to set up a situation like that, except for the Elite Four. I mean, the only big fights I have left are this Blaine fight, then Giovanni, then I'll fight my rival on the way to Victory Road, then I'll do the Elite Four after fighting all the trainers on Victory Road, and then I'll fight the rival at the end of it, right? So yeah, there's not that much left to do. The thing is, though, there is a lot of leveling left to do. There's just not a lot of key fights left. The real question is, will it make us go to the Sevi Islands, or can we go directly to the Viridian City Gym? Because I believe in the Viridian City Gym, we'll still just be using Dragon Surf against Giovanni. But most of Giovanni's dudes are all using like fighting Pokemon, like Machop. So I might send Snorlax after them or something. No, he's a normal attack. That's probably not a good idea. And oh, Psychic. So I'll send and that also has the benefit of being Water type, just in case I get faked out. But yeah, it's sending Freezy out, the Lapras, Freezy the Lapras. Oh, good old Bolt Beam Psychic Freezy. Liam Count of Freezyberg, classic character. Ah, and today's a Wednesday night. Actually, in the next hour or so, the new episode of, and maybe it's either the second to last or last episode of Dimension 20 City Council of Darkness. Do I watch it immediately to show my support for a show that I'm a huge fan of? Or do I stick with my plan to record 3 episodes of Pokemon tonight? Who's more important, my fanship for Dimension 20 or my respect for my fans? I probably shouldn't put it like that. Alright, this guy's about to feed me level 46. Let's do it. Bring it home, dragon. 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 Rock the dragon. Dragon Ball Z. What an incredible show to do abridged. Dragon Ball Z. You know, when you cut out all of the, like, screaming stuff and, like, recap and hype, and, it's not called fodder. What's the extra episodes that aren't canon called? How do I not know this? Just the Naruto part. The Naruto Cake Ninja episode. Wow, it's completely skipping my mind. And then someone's gonna put it in. I'm either gonna remember it in like 5 minutes, or someone's gonna put it in the comment section and be like, wow, I don't know how I didn't know that. Obviously, I should know that. But yeah, if you remove all that stuff from Dragon Ball Z and you just watch... the Team Form Star Dragon Ball Abridged is very funny. But even without the parody, you can get some good cuts of just the, like, action important stuff of Dragon Ball Z. That's incredible. Like, it's just a hyper-focused, high animation, cutting out all the strange, weird stuff, all the looping. What a story. What an incredible story. It changed the fate of the nation of Brazil forever. To some extent, it had huge effects in Mexico. Never as big as it was in Brazil, but... I mean, Brazil has now claimed Miku, I understand. Brazil defeated Japan at the World Cup, and so they've now permanently claimed Miku. And maybe Dragon Ball Z forever. I'm sure Japan will put out a really nationalist bulletin saying that Japanese culture is for the Japanese only. Something like that. Wait. Japan does that from time to time, by the way. Just a thing they do. It's just a thing, man. I think they get upset when foreign publishers try to put pressure on them to like change the content. And then you see really silly stuff like replacing blood with milk or just completely cutting scenes out of animes and stuff. They don't like that. But boy, does Japan have wildly different cultural values than America or the West sometimes. There's stuff I wish they would self-enforce and cut out for real on gods. But I feel that way about some American shows as well. I wish they would enforce real American values on them. I think there was a time I really liked reality TV shows, but it's not for me anymore. It's tough watching stuff like Survivor. Now that's a show that you really just need a clean edited cut of. You can get some good stuff out of that if you just get like a good like compressed 10-hour thing. What was that Western cartoon, Total Drama Island? That was just sort of a psychotic breakdown of reality TV shows, and then it really jumped its own shark more than once as it continued to go on and on. But yeah, I thought Total Drama Island was an excellent view of how crazy contestants can be and how fake and backstabbing they can be on those shows. I still remember, I've talked about this so many times now, so sorry if you've heard this story before, but I still remember when 9/11 happened. I don't think it was immediate, but like several weeks or months later, I don't remember whether it was Real World or Road Rules. It was the one that was on MTV. They were all in a corner apartment building in like a huge like multi-room loft in New York City. And they could see the towers smoking and they could hear everything going on. And you'd get the behind the scenes of that day where they were told by the voice in the sky, like, don't look at it, don't comment on it, just keep doing what you're doing. And the whole cast is like sobbing in a corner, sitting on a couch, completely frozen. Just listening to people occasionally tell them to like be interesting or like get back to the story. It's just wild, absolutely crazy stuff. If you're ever looking for a reason to not like reality TV shows and to like cut the cord, to end it forever, just watching that documentary scene should be more than enough to get you up over the hurdle right there. Don't talk about it. Oh, and just to be super clear, they did not tell the contestants / actors anything. They were forbidden to interact with the crew and tell them that, I mean, it's not like anyone had any idea what was going on, right? If you remember that day, they turned on the TV, I remember 10 or 11 a.m. in my school. I remember being in a very specific class, and they turned the TV on while it was happening, and then the rest of the day was just TVs on. And nothing was really happening. We didn't really learn anything. We were just trying to figure out what was going on. as like more planes were going down, more explosions, more fires, stuff was collapsing. You could see the chaos. Wow. Good thing these videos aren't monetized, because I definitely can't monetize talking about 9/11 for sure, but these contestants, who were young people, like college-age people, were not informed what was going on. They weren't allowed to talk about what was going on. Their contracts were used against them. They were scared and afraid, and they were left in the dark intentionally. And that was considered acceptable at the time. It's like when, who's that bellend that's kind of really messed up his face quite badly? Simon Cowell. He was really heavily... Okay, so we're at 47. We can't go beyond this. And we also don't want to... Oh, no. Because I have to defeat all the trainers in Blaine's gym. Uh-oh. Huh. I might have caused myself a slight problem here. Maybe I don't want to boost up Freezy then. Maybe Freezy will eat the trainers in the gym for me and level in that way. Do I take... I feel like it's too much of a risk to level Buddy off of people who are going to counter him. Now, I think the guy at the end... I don't remember who has the match-ups and who doesn't, but I think this is a match-up guy. Maybe we see if we can get in here and do a little match-up chopping. And if not, we'll have to switch to another... Okay, that's definitely not a match-up, so this was a huge mistake. Freezy, eat this battle and eat this XP for me, bud. Freezy! What was the thing he did that really upset me? There was a woman named Susan Boyle. And they were like, look how ugly she is, but listen to how beautiful her voice is. And that was their whole promotion for her. It was just so mean. And in retrospect, it seems like it's a really strange move, but at the time, that was like the way marketing worked. That was considered normal. And maybe today that is still considered normal. I don't think that's normal, but that's how they did it back then. But that was back in the day where you watched every show live and they were like, text in now, and you'd do that no matter what show it was. Like, you'd be watching Lost and there'd be a little thing at the bottom of your screen that's like, guess what's gonna happen next, text in now. Do they still do that? I don't really watch live television anymore. I'll tell you what's surviving. Telenovelas and soap operas and stuff. You'd think that somehow they'd just run out of interest in that, and yet it seems like they cling tenaciously to life as other unworthy genres also die. Okay, we're gonna go in here. We're gonna heal, because I don't remember whether I healed or not. We're gonna upfront Freezy. Although who knows how many, if there's only like, well, even a few gym trainers could push us past 47, which would be disastrous. This was slightly misplayed on my part. So Freezy in front as it is, I managed to reconvince myself we're up on Freezy. Freezy stocks are strong right now, alright? We're gonna save outside the gym. I'm gonna make a thumbnail that's just me pointing to myself. And then we're gonna fight Blaine next time. Stick around on the next episode of Dragon Ball Z.